Don't you want to know before this happens? Without a good weather app, you won't. You won't know if it's a good time to go out and mow the grass, work in the yard, put down fertilizer, or maybe do your next pre-emergent. You need a good weather app to make sure you have weather awareness. And that's why it's important to have the best weather apps available. I used to be a long-time DarkSky user, but that was before Apple bought them out and made their service no longer available. What made DarkSky so unique was their hyper-local forecasts. You could get down-to-the-minute weather forecasts in your area, and so you knew exactly when it was going to rain, for example. But it was really good at providing accurate weather forecasts for not only for today, but also days in advance. But after it got bought out by Apple and eventually shut down, it left me scrambling for a worthy alternative. And it took me a long time before I could settle on one that I really like. This app that I've been using, called Windy, it's the one that I've been using for the longest time before I got weaned off of DarkSky. It first caught my attention whenever I was searching for a new weather app because it had visually stunning, detailed weather maps. And honestly, it's got the best weather maps around. Now let's talk about this Windy app for a moment. When you first open up the app, you're going to see a regional map over your area. You're going to see a 3-day forecast up the top. Now again, they're really extremely detailed and informative maps, but by default, you're going to see the weather radar that comes up for wind speeds. Hence the name Windy. It makes sense that they would default to this one. But the wind speeds are actually color-coded to show the intensity of the wind. Now under the 3-day forecast, you can actually see where there's a bar that runs across, then it's going to show you the rain potential and the intensity of the wind. And if you click down on this menu button at the bottom right, you're going to switch over to the different weather map options. Once again, you're going to see a very nice looking weather radar map. You can also see the lightning strikes that correspond with that in your area. So that's really helpful if you're working outside during the summer when lightning strikes are a lot more prevalent. You want to make sure you get back into the house before it gets too close. This is also great if you're a parent with kids who play sports. You want to make sure that you're nowhere near the area when lightning strikes. But because it doesn't have the radar map, by default when you open it up, I've got it pinned here for easy access. So you can look through, there's actually a lot of different layers that you can pick from, ranging from temperature maps, cloud coverage, air pressure, ozone, drought conditions, even fire dangers here. So if you click here on the 3-day forecast up at the top, above the radar map, you can see where there's a 5-day forecast. It'll go into the hourly forecast that corresponds with it. By default, you're going to get the Euro model, but there's a lot of different models that you can pick from, and you can compare them on another page. Let's be honest here. There is no perfect weather app. Even though I was really impressed with the visualizations that you get in the Windy app, more often than not, the forecasts wouldn't match up with what I was seeing in reality. There were some noticeable differences, and that was regardless of which weather model that I chose to pick from. So this was quite a letdown, especially when I was going outside to put a product down on the lawn that required no rain. And then if it rained when I didn't expect it, I would have to go reapply. So you want to rely on these apps to be accurate. And when they're not, it can really mess up your plans. But I want to give credit where credit's due. Windy's map features are incredibly detailed and useful. And so this situation really left me at a crossroads. Should I continue to use Windy despite some forecasts being considerably off at times? Should I start looking for a more reliable alternative? So that's why I continue my search for the best weather app out there. I stumbled upon MSN Weather. Now, MSN Weather might lack the flashy maps that you're going to see in Windy, but it makes up for it in accuracy and reliability. Although we're not going to see DarkSky make a comeback, its legacy still lives on because you can see the influence that it had on some of these weather apps that are now being developed. To me, MSN Weather feels like one of the closest matches that you're going to see from what we had from DarkSky. So quickly, you're going to notice how MSN Weather consistently nails the weather predictions. The forecasts are trustworthy and it allows me to make my plans without hesitation. So just like in the Windy app, you're going to see if there's any notifications from the National Weather Service. Those are going to pop up at the top as notifications for you. When there's rain in the forecast, it's going to give you down-to-the-minute expectations when there's rainfall that's going to hit, just like we saw with DarkSky. Otherwise, that map doesn't show up. And to be totally honest, this weather map needs some significant improvements. I don't like it all that much. But you know what? I'm going to set that aside and I'm not going to complain about it a whole lot. It's because the data is what matters. The weather map here shows and hides based on the precipitation chances within the next hour. You can tap on the weather map here and it will bring up a larger map showing you the rain intensity that's being forecasted. And then you're going to see a description on about how long that precipitation is going to last. But if you back out to the main page, Below that, there's going to be a weather summary for the day. You're normally going to see the hourly forecast. That goes in 24-hour cycles, so you can see 24 hours ahead. Then there's the 10-day forecast under that. And then if there's a particular day that you want to look at on the 10-day forecast, you can then tap it and it will give you additional information about that day. It'll give you a daily summary and it will give you the expectation for the daytime forecast versus what you're going to see and expect at night. Then there's a drop down on the right of that that's going to change the chart. You can see the differences between the expected precipitation, the temperature, and the wind speeds. Each of those are going to give you an hourly look. Then finally, below the 10-day forecast, you're going to get air quality as it currently stands. Then you can get more details about the day. So if you scroll down, then you can see what the daylight hours are going to be, when the sunrise is, when the sunset's going to happen, and then there's the moon phases. But it became apparent really quickly that I would be using Windy for the weather maps, and then I would be using MSN for its reliable forecast. I would love to have one single app to do it all, but both Windy and MSN together provide a comprehensive view of my weather needs. So now I'm finding myself relying on two weather apps. And you know what? That's okay, because these two apps have become my standard for keeping ahead of the weather, and they do a really good job on their own. Each weather app plays into its strengths, and they create a perfect pair. Now, while Windy and MSN are great tools on their own, there's another key component that's in my weather toolkit, and that's Ryan Hall on YouTube. Discovering Ryan's channel last year has been a game changer for me, especially when it comes to grasping the complexities of weather patterns. Ryan's style is very relatable, and his videos are packed with information, and he's incredibly engaging. He has this knack for simplifying complex weather science and turns it into something that everyone can understand. He's got timely updates and in-depth analysis of the weather events. Those are invaluable, especially when it comes to severe weather. He even hosts live streams whenever there are major storms that come across the US, and he will often have a direct communication with a number of storm chasers that are on the ground in those areas. He really does make sure that you are weather aware, as he likes to say. His channel is essential for anyone who wants to stay informed about the weather. Now, with the maps from Windy, the forecasts from MSN Weather, and the expert analysis from Ryan Hall, I've never been caught off guard with the weather ever since. And so I'm confident that you're going to feel the same way. So those are my go-to weather sources for weather information, and they keep me prepared for anything weather related at all times. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and make sure you hit the like button if you agree that these are the best weather apps out there. If you think I'm wrong, feel free to hit that dislike button twice, and we'll see you in the next one.